Hi, this is Richard Denton, and I'm going to do some videos to help you know how to build Phase 1 semantic representations starting from the translation notes display version. And I'm going to show you some examples of developing the Phase 1. But before I do that, I'm going to show you some resources that I think will be helpful for doing this. Now, on the right, I have a Zoho document open, and if you get working with us, you may use these. It's not absolutely necessary to use it. You could use Word or Notepad, any text editor to enter the Phase 1. So the Phase 1 semantic representations are in a specialized language we call TBTAEs for the TBTA program. And so the type of language we call TBTAEs, and I'm going to type it in here. So over here on the left, I have Paratext open, and I have several resources I'm going to find helpful. This is going to be our main text. We're going to be working from the translation notes display version here, and for it has the sections of a verse divided. So the first part A and B for chapter 2 Kings chapter 6:1 is what I'm going to start on, and so there are at least two versions that it always includes. So you see this first version, or this, or this. Now this is either NIV or RSV, depending on what they choose. But we're going to work with the meaning lines mainly. I have several other things open. The translation notes would be very helpful, but they don't have that for 2 Kings, so we're not going to use that. Instead, I have the USB handbook open here in case I have questions about what the meaning is. The T4T translation can be helpful if there are missing arguments. I have the NASB open because that gives me a good idea of what the literal text is. And I have NIV open because we usually use paragraph markings based on NIV and titles. We choose where to put titles based on NIV. We don't have to use the NIV title, but that's how we choose where to put the titles. So those are the resources I like in Paratext for this. And over here, I have the document where I'm going to write the document. Now we're going to see that we're going to have lots of complex concepts that we're going to need to deal with. So I'm going to open the TBTA program. While that's opening, let's look at some of the other documents that I'm going to look at. This is the Longman Defining Vocabulary, so it's available as a PDF. And it has the basic words that are used in the Longman Dictionary. This is the basis of our vocabulary in TBTA. So now I have opened the program, and here you see this ontology and lexicon menu item. I'm going to go to, I'll start out with nouns here. Ontology, then nouns. So these are objects or nouns. And we'll be looking mainly at this source word section. So you see there are two parts. This is open for a particular language. In this case, I've opened the analyzer language, and the right one is going to be kind of like our English grammar. So it has English words. But if we had a different language open, this could be Korean or Tagalog or some other language. But mainly we're going to deal with this part over here. And you see some words, and first of all, we have a lot of names. And so the brown is used for proper names, proper nouns. And if I skip down, we'll see some words that are have this cream color, and that's for the level numeral 1, complexity level. And so action is a basic word, and that's related to this Longman defining vocabulary, where you see action is in the defining vocabulary. So normally, and this isn't always the case, but normally the words that are cream colored in this senses column here are level, what we call level numeral 1. Those are the simple words, and those are going to be in this Longman defining vocabulary. So let's see, advice should be there also, and you can see advice is in there. So we have other words that show up as magenta, and those are what we call complex words. And so complex words we have to express in terms of the simple words in our phase 1 semantic representations. So we have adultery is a simple word, and it has a gloss here. A person's sex is a person who is not his or her spouse. So in this here, we have another document which is very, very useful, and it's the what we call the how-to document, how to handle complex terms. So let's look for adultery. So we have an item here to do or to commit adultery. And so we have an explication. X sexes a man, woman, or person who is not the husband or wife of X. Okay, so we write it this way with the simple terms in our phase 1 semantic representations, but this can actually be converted to commit adultery in the generated English. Now, we may come across a term that's complex and we don't have a term yet in the ontology. And so we might want to know, do we want to add that term or not? So we can use the Bible Gateway keyword index to see how many times it's used. So consider recline. So would we want to add recline? Well, we actually do have a word recline in the ontology, I think. So let's look up verbs. So here we're in the ontology. So I'm going to switch now to verbs or events. And then you can do this one and pick R. So we do have recline. That's a complex word. But suppose there were another word that we might want to add. Let's see. Suppose alabaster. Well, alabaster is only used 3 times in the Bible. So normally we wouldn't add that. The only reason that we would use that, to my way of thinking, is because we already have it. So let's see if we have that. Alabaster. Alabaster, we do have that as a complex term. But if we didn't already have that, I wouldn't add it. I would just use an explication, unless we, for some reason, we think we really need it. So this is useful for finding out if the word is used enough times in the Bible to make it useful. Generally, if a word is used over 20 times, say, it's worth adding. If it's used 10 or less, probably not. and somewhere between 10 and 20. It kind of depends on whether we think that word will be really useful. This is the Longman Dictionary, and that's really useful for finding out how to express complex terms in terms of simpler terms. So if I look up alabaster, it says a white stone used in making statues or other objects. So that might be useful. Let's see how we've written that in our how-to document. Alabaster, a beautiful white and yellow stone. So that's how we decided to express it. And that might have been partly based on this, a white stone. And I might have looked in the handbook. So remember that we had this, the handbook. Wherever a verse has alabaster, it might tell us what alabaster is at that point. Okay, in the translator notes display version, remember that I said it has at least 2 versions. Here it has 3. So it's divided by this or this or this. Usually the first one is more literal. If we can use that one, if it's easy to use that version, we'll use that. If not, we'll look at these other versions. So that's a simple introduction to some of the resources that I'm going to find useful for creating a Phase 1 semantic representation, which I'm going to put in here based on the translation notes display version, which is here.